A Memorial Day horror story. The setting: Memorial Day 2019. Memorial Day 2019 began like any other holiday for Michael Peterson. A retired Navy SEAL, Michael cherished this day not only to honor his fallen comrades, but also to spend time with his family. Living in a quaint town in Virginia, Michael's Memorial Day routine included attending the local parade, visiting the cemetery, and hosting a barbecue at his home. However, this particular Memorial Day will be etched into his memory for all the wrong reasons. The morning. A start like any other. The morning started with Michael waking up early to prepare for the day's events. He donned his ceremonial uniform, ensuring every medal and ribbon was perfectly aligned. His wife, Sarah, and their two children, Emily and Jake, were equally excited. They decorated the house with American flags and set up tables in the backyard for the afternoon barbecue. Michael's first stop was the town's Memorial Day parade. He marched alongside fellow veterans, waving to the crowd and feeling a deep sense of pride and camaraderie. The parade ended at the town cemetery, where a solemn ceremony took place. Michael paid his respects to the fallen soldiers, some of whom he had known personally. The barbecue. A time for family and friends. Returning home, Michael fired up the grill, ready to cook for the guests who would soon arrive. Friends, family, and neighbors gathered in the backyard, enjoying the warm weather and each other's company. The air was filled with laughter, the scent of grilling meat, and the sound of children playing. Among the guests was Michael's childhood friend, Dave, who had recently moved back to town after years of living abroad. Dave had always been a bit of a wanderer, with stories of his travels that intrigued everyone. This Memorial Day, he brought with him a peculiar gift for Michael: an old military footlocker he had found in an antique shop overseas. The footlocker, a mysterious gift. The footlocker was a sturdy, weathered box with a rusted lock. Dave mentioned he had no idea what was inside, but thought Michael would appreciate its historical significance. Intrigued, Michael decided to open it later that evening, after the barbecue. The day continued with games, food, and heartfelt conversations. As the sun began to set and the guests started to leave, Michael carried the footlocker into his study. Sarah and the kids were busy tidying up, giving Michael a moment of solitude to examine his gift. The opening. An unexpected find. With a sense of curiosity and excitement, Michael pried open the lock. Inside, he found a collection of old photographs, letters, and military memorabilia. As he sifted through the contents, one particular envelope caught his eye. It was addressed to Lieutenant John T. Harris, a name Michael did not recognize. Opening the envelope, Michael discovered a series of letters written during World War I. The letters detailed the harrowing experiences of Lieutenant Harris and his platoon, culminating in a final letter dated June 6, 1944, D-Day. The letter described an ambush and a desperate fight for survival. As Michael read the words, he felt a chill run down his spine. The last letter ended abruptly, with a blood-stained signature. The research. Piecing together the past. Michael's curiosity turned into an obsession. Over the next few days, he dedicated himself to researching Lieutenant John T. Harris. He contacted military historians, scoured online archives, and even visited the National Archives in Washington, D.C. What he discovered was a story of heroism, sacrifice, and a dark secret that had been buried for decades. Lieutenant Harris had been part of a covert operation during D-Day, tasked with infiltrating enemy lines and gathering intelligence. However, his platoon was ambushed, and most of his men were killed. The survivors, including Harris, were captured and taken to a hidden Nazi bunker. The official records ended there, with Harris listed as missing in action. The discovery. Uncovering the truth. Determined to uncover the truth, Michael contacted Dave, who provided the name of the antique shop where he had found the footlocker. The shop owner revealed that the footlocker had come from an estate sale in France, near the Normandy coast. Michael decided to travel to France, hoping to find more clues about Lieutenant Harris' fate. In Normandy, Michael met with local historians and explored the areas mentioned in the letters. His search led him to a forgotten bunker hidden deep in the woods. Inside, he found remnants of a brutal struggle, bullet holes, bloodstains, and skeletal remains. Among the debris, he discovered a dog tag with the name Lieutenant John T. Harris. The revelation: a dark secret. Michael's findings caught the attention of both French and American authorities. A joint investigation was launched, and the bunker was thoroughly examined. What they uncovered was a chilling tale of betrayal and survival. It turned out that Lieutenant Harris and his men had been betrayed by a double agent within their ranks. The ambush was orchestrated, leading to their capture. In the bunker, Harris and the surviving soldiers had been tortured for information. Despite the horrors they endured, they never broke. The final letter Michael had found was Harris' last attempt to document their ordeal, hoping someone would eventually find it. The aftermath: a nation's gratitude. The discovery of the bunker and the story of Lieutenant Harris and his men became national news. Memorial services were held, and the fallen soldiers were posthumously awarded medals for their bravery. Michael was invited to speak at several ceremonies, sharing the incredible story he had uncovered. For Michael, the experience was both haunting and cathartic. He had unearthed a piece of history that honored the sacrifice of his fellow soldiers. Memorial Day took on a deeper meaning for him, reminding him of the true cost of freedom and the importance of remembering those who gave their lives for it. Conclusion: a day of remembrance. As Memorial Day 2020 approached, Michael prepared once again for the annual parade and barbecue. This time, he included a special tribute to Lieutenant John T. Harris and his men. He displayed the footlocker and its contents, along with a detailed account of their story. The town gathered to honor the fallen heroes, and Michael felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He had not only paid tribute to his comrades, but also ensured that their legacy would never be forgotten. Memorial Day would forever be a day of remembrance, not just for Michael, but for everyone who heard the story of Lieutenant John T. Harris. The horrors of Memorial Day, a tale of human tragedy. Memorial Day is traditionally a time of reflection, gratitude, and commemoration. It is a day when Americans honor the brave men and women who sacrificed their lives in service to their country. However, amidst the barbecues, parades, and patriotic ceremonies, there can be somber, even disturbing stories that emerge from the shadows of this day. One such story is that of John Parker, a Vietnam War veteran whose Memorial Day in 2004 became a harrowing ordeal that exposed the hidden scars of war, the inadequacies of the VA system, and the devastating impact of untreated PTSD. The background: John Parker was a man who had seen more than his fair share of life's cruelties. Born in 1950 in a small town in Ohio, he grew up in a working-class family. His father was a factory worker, and his mother was a school teacher. John was an average student but excelled in sports, particularly football. After high school, in 1968, he enlisted in the U.S. Army, driven by a sense of duty and adventure. By 1969, he found himself in the thick jungles of Vietnam. The war was brutal. John witnessed the deaths of many friends, experienced the chaos of combat, and endured the constant fear of enemy attacks. These experiences left deep psychological scars that would haunt him for the rest of his life. After returning home in 1971, John struggled to reintegrate into civilian life. He suffered from nightmares, flashbacks, and severe anxiety, symptoms of what we now recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The struggle for years, John battled his inner demons in silence. The stigma surrounding mental health, especially for veterans, kept him from seeking help. He tried to build a normal life, working various jobs and eventually marrying his high school sweetheart, Linda. They had 2 children, but John's erratic behavior and emotional instability strained the marriage. In 1995, Linda left him, taking the children with her. This was a turning point for John, and his life spiraled downward. By the early 2000s, John was living alone in a small apartment in Cleveland. His physical health deteriorated due to heavy drinking and neglect, and his mental health was in shambles. He had finally started to seek help from the Veterans Affairs VA system, but the process was slow and bureaucratic. He was prescribed medications and attended sporadic therapy sessions, but the help he needed was often delayed or inadequate. The incident. Memorial Day 2004 began like any other day for John. He woke up early, his body aching from years of hard living and the toll of his untreated PTSD. He planned to visit the local VA hospital for a scheduled appointment and then participate in a Memorial Day ceremony at a nearby park. The ceremonies on Memorial Day had always been bittersweet for John. They were a reminder of his fallen comrades, but also of the respect and gratitude the nation held for its veterans. John arrived at the VA hospital that morning, only to be told that his appointment had been cancelled due to a scheduling error. This was not the first time something like this had happened, and it infuriated him. He felt invisible, like the sacrifices he and his fellow soldiers had made were forgotten by the very system meant to support them. Frustrated and angry, John left the hospital and decided to head straight to the park. The park was bustling with families, veterans, and community members. The sight of the American flags, the sounds of patriotic music, and the smell of barbecue filled the air. John found a quiet spot near a memorial dedicated to Vietnam veterans and sat down. He closed his eyes, hoping to find some peace. But instead, the memories flooded back. The faces of his friends, the sounds of gunfire, the screams, and the explosions. Everything came rushing back with a force that overwhelmed him. The breakdown. As the ceremony began, John felt increasingly detached from reality. The speeches and the playing of taps triggered intense flashbacks. He could hear the screams of his friends, the noise of helicopters, and the explosions. His breathing quickened, and he felt trapped, like he was back in the jungles of Vietnam. The anxiety grew into a full-blown panic attack. In a desperate attempt to escape his torment, John fled the park, stumbling through the crowd. John's appearance and behavior alarmed the people around him. He was visibly distressed, sweating profusely and muttering to himself. A few concerned onlookers tried to help, but John was beyond reasoning. He ran to his car, parked a few blocks away, and drove off at high speed, his mind racing and his vision blurred by tears. The tragedy. John's erratic driving caught the attention of a police officer who began to follow him. Unaware of the situation, the officer thought John was simply a reckless driver. When John realized he was being followed, his panic intensified. He drove faster, weaving through traffic, ignoring stop signs and traffic lights. The chase ended tragically when John lost control of his car on a sharp turn, crashing into a utility pole. The impact was severe. Paramedics arrived quickly, but it was too late. John was pronounced dead at the scene. The police officer, now aware of John's background, was devastated. The news of John's death spread quickly through the community, casting a pall over the Memorial Day celebrations. The story of a Vietnam veteran, broken and neglected by the system, dying in such a manner struck a chord with many. The aftermath. John's death was a stark reminder of the struggles faced by many veterans. His story prompted a local investigation into the VA hospital's handling of his case and drew attention to the broader issues within the VA system. The community rallied around John's family, offering support and demanding better care for veterans. Memorial Day in Cleveland that year became not just a day of remembrance for fallen soldiers, but also a day of reckoning for the living veterans who continued to suffer. Reflection. John Parker's story is not unique. Thousands of veterans across the United States face similar struggles, battling PTSD, depression, and other mental health issues with inadequate support. Memorial Day should be a time to honor not only those who died in combat, but also those who returned home with invisible wounds. It should serve as a call to action to improve the care and support provided to veterans, ensuring that their sacrifices are truly honored and remembered. John's tragic end highlights the critical need for comprehensive mental health services for veterans. It underscores the importance of timely and effective interventions and the necessity of removing the stigma associated with seeking help. Memorial Day should be a reminder of the cost of war, not just in lives lost on the battlefield, but in the lives forever changed by the trauma of combat. As we remember John Parker and countless others like him, let us commit to doing better for our veterans. Let us advocate for a system that honors their sacrifices with the care and respect they deserve, ensuring that their stories of pain and struggle lead to meaningful change. Memorial Day is a time for reflection and remembrance, but it should also be a catalyst for action and improvement. Only then can we truly honor the legacy of those who served.